Hi, welcome to day 5 of my new series, Starting a Side Hustle for Beginners, where I just share a tip a day in the checklist of the things you need to do and the order you need to do them to get your side hustle off the ground. So if you've been wanting to learn something like this, follow along. Hopefully it'll help you out. Okay, today is day 5, and today is a bit of a combo. It's going to be business licensing and insurance. These are two things that you want to do pretty early in the checklist because it does dictate what type of business you can do based on the requirements in your area. So first thing is business licensing. And here in Arizona, they do not require most small businesses to have a business license to do business. There's only restrictions around very specific types of business that are more regulated. So here we don't have to have a license to do business, but they do require you to pay TPT taxes, which is transaction privilege taxes. It's the privilege of doing business. So instead of paying for a license, you're paying taxes. So just another way to track you. But you want to look in your area and see what sort of licensing is required. Sometimes there could be a state requirement, there could be a city requirement, or even a county requirement. So you want to do all of that searching to see what is required in your area. And something I've learned here is that although Arizona does not uniformly require a business license to do business, at least in the categories I am doing business in, there can be certain cities that regulate that. If you come into their city to do business, even if you're not located in their city, but you come in to do business, they can require you to have a license on file for that city. So just another thing to keep in mind. The second thing is insurance, and this one is a little bit more tricky. I get asked questions about this all the time, and I wish I had a better answer. We were fortunate that we own a mobile video game truck business, and we had a very large liability policy with that one already. We have $1 million liability policy. And so when I wanted to add rentals, I just called my business insurance guy and said, hey, I'm thinking of doing this. Can we insure it? And he was like, send me a list of everything that you want to rent out. And he got back to me. 90% of the stuff was like, yeah, that's not a problem. It barely adds to your premium. Other than bounce equipment, which I talked about that in one of my other videos the other day, is that my insurance guy was like, we absolutely will not insure bounce houses or anything inflatable that people crawl into. So keep that in mind because that limits what kind of business you can do if your insurance won't cover it. Now, he did say you guys can go get insurance somewhere else for that if you want, but we opted out. What I will say is I've been having people reaching out who are trying to get a small party rental business started and are telling me they're having difficulty getting that business coverage. And so I'm going to tell you the things that they have told me that they're hearing. One, starting a small party rental business, they're hearing that the policy they're asking for is not large enough to get coverage. Like I said, ours is $1 million policy, so that is a large policy. So adding stuff onto that was not an issue at all, but I don't know what size they were asking for. But that's one thing to find out is if they're telling you it's not a big enough policy for us to do this, ask them how big of a policy you would need. Because for reference, our $1 million policy is like $350 a month, I believe. So ask how big would it need to be to get coverage? I've had people say that the insurance person said that's too small. If you want to add this coverage onto your homeowners and car insurance, then we can bundle it and then that's enough. So those are things to keep in mind. Sometimes it's based on revenue. I've had on my bounce house video where I was talking about the bounce house coverage, I've had people comment that they have a couple of insurance companies that they work with, and they will cover bounce houses. It's based on revenue, whether you do over $100,000 a year or under. Those things matter. So those are questions to kind of ask. The other thing is that I have been seeing a lot of, it's like amusement and more high risk insurance for things like the bounce house industry, foam parties, the type of business like party rental businesses, things along those lines. So you may need to search out more of an amusement type of insurance because the insurance is out there. You just need to ask what you need to do to qualify for those policies. I have a lot of people ask, do we have to have insurance? You need to look in your area and see what the requirement is. But I always suggest that you do because it's an added layer of protection for you personally. People can get hurt through their own negligence of using your rental equipment, but still they can sue you if they want. Doesn't mean they're going to win, but they can still start a lawsuit. If you have insurance, that's just a layer of protection for you personally so that they're not suing you personally if they, or doing a Nerf Wars package and trip while they're running and break an arm. I don't know. Anything can go wrong, and people can set up a lawsuit for whatever they want. I always suggest you have insurance because it is a level of protection for you personally. Okay, I don't know a ton on this. Ask any questions you've got. I'll answer the best I can. And I will say that if you know of an insurance company that would insure people, I would love it if you would leave that in the comments because people come back and look and it's very helpful.